Margaret never thought she'd be living alone at this stage in life. For decades, her home had been filled with laughter, the clatter of dinner plates, and the comforting presence of her husband. But now, the silence is deafening. Some nights, she finds herself eating dinner in front of the TV just for background noise. She never imagined solitude could feel so heavy. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Living alone in old age can feel like stepping into unknown territory, where routines shift, social circles shrink, and the question of what now lingers in the air. But here's the truth. Solitude doesn't have to mean loneliness. It can be the key to rediscovering joy, purpose, and even a new version of yourself. Today we'll explore 5 simple yet powerful ways to turn an empty house into a thriving, joyful sanctuary. And it all starts with the space around you. 1. Creating a nurturing and uplifting living space. Margaret sat in her favorite armchair, staring at the framed wedding photo on the mantel. The house hadn't changed much since her husband passed. His slippers were still tucked under the bed, and his books were neatly stacked on the nightstand. At first, keeping things exactly as they were felt like a way to hold on to him, to keep his presence alive. But lately she noticed something unsettling. This house, once a sanctuary, had started to feel more like a museum. A place frozen in time, holding memories but not welcoming new ones. It wasn't that she wanted to erase the past. She just wanted to step into the present without feeling like she was walking through a life that no longer fit. But where to start? For many seniors living alone, the home can become a symbol of loss rather than comfort. And yet, small changes, ones that honor the past while embracing the present, can make an enormous difference in how a space feels. The first step? Decluttering with intention, not to get rid of memories, but to make space for life to keep happening. Margaret began with a single shelf, choosing items that truly brought her joy and letting go of those that didn't. A friend suggested something simple but powerful. Instead of keeping everything, she could select a few meaningful keepsakes and display them in a way that celebrated, rather than mourned the past. Once she started, something remarkable happened. The house began to feel lighter. She swapped out dark curtains for airy, light-filtering ones that let the sunshine in. She moved her reading chair closer to the window, filling the space with warmth and comfort. She added fresh flowers to the dining table, no longer letting it sit empty. Your home should be a reflection of the life you are living now, not just the one you had before. Whether it's rearranging furniture, painting a wall a cheerful color, or simply opening the blinds each morning to let in the light, these small shifts can transform a house into a home, a place that nurtures and uplifts, rather than holds you back. 2. Building a routine that brings joy and stability. If there was one thing Margaret missed most about her old life, it was the sense of rhythm. Mornings spent making breakfast for 2. Afternoons filled with errands and conversation. Evenings winding down with a cup of tea, always with someone beside her. Now, without those familiar markers, the days seemed to blur together. She woke up when she felt like it. Meals were everywhere. The TV became a companion, but not a fulfilling one. Then, one morning she asked, "What's the point?" And that's when she realized something had to change. Living alone means having the freedom to shape your days exactly as you please. But too much freedom can sometimes feel like being adrift at sea. The trick? Creating a daily rhythm that brings both joy and structure. For Margaret, the first step was simple. Getting up at the same time every morning and making her bed. It wasn't about discipline. It was about setting a positive tone for the day. Then, she added small rituals, a walk outside before breakfast, a mid-morning call with her daughter, an hour of reading after lunch. These weren't rigid schedules. They were gentle anchors, bringing a sense of purpose to her days. A routine doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as starting the day with a gratitude practice, designating Wednesdays as movie night, or making Sunday afternoons a time to bake something new. The key is consistency, not to trap you, but to bring a sense of flow and stability. Margaret also learned that building a routine isn't just about structure, it's about making space for joy. One of her greatest discoveries was an online storytelling group where she could share memories from her childhood and listen to others do the same. It gave her something to look forward to, something that connected her to people beyond the walls of her home. Start small if the days are long, scattered, or unfulfilling. Find one thing: a morning walk, an evening crossword, a weekly check-in with a friend, and build from there. Because when life has a rhythm, even the quietest days feel meaningful. 3. Finding purpose through hobbies and learning. Margaret had always loved painting. As a young woman, she'd spend hours at her easel, losing herself in color and texture. But life, as it often does, had other plans: career, marriage, kids. Somewhere along the way, her brushes were packed away, her canvases stored in the attic, and her creative spark left to gather dust. Then, on a whim, she signed up for a watercolor class at the community center. At first she worried, what if she was rusty? What if she didn't fit in with the other students? But the moment she dipped her brush into the paint, something inside her awakened. It wasn't just about the painting, it was about reclaiming a piece of herself that she'd forgotten. For seniors living alone, hobbies are more than just pastimes. They are pathways to fulfillment, growth, and connection. Whether it's painting, gardening, learning a new language, or even trying out social media to stay in touch with family, hobbies offer a sense of purpose beyond the daily routine. One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that it's too late to try something new. But the truth is, this phase of life is the perfect time to explore interests that may have been set aside in younger years. Margaret's art class wasn't just a creative outlet. It was a doorway to new friendships, lively conversations, and a reminder that growth doesn't stop with age. Not sure where to start? Think about what once brought you joy. Was it music, writing, cooking? Maybe it's something entirely new: photography, calligraphy, or even bird watching. The beauty of a hobby is that it's yours, with no deadlines, no pressure, just pure enjoyment. Margaret's walls, once bare, were now filled with her artwork, not because she was the next Picasso, but because they reminded her of something vital. Life is meant to be lived, explored, and expressed. And when you have something that lights you up, solitude becomes not a burden, but a gift. 4. Strengthening social connections and community involvement. Margaret never considered herself lonely. She had her books, her art, and her well-established routine. But one evening, as she set the dinner table for one, a wave of emptiness washed over her. It wasn't sadness exactly, but an ache for conversation, for shared laughter, for someone to say, "Tell me about your day." Loneliness can be subtle, creeping in through the quiet moments, settling in the spaces where connection used to be. Many seniors assume that friendships fade with age, that social circles shrink, and there's no reversing it. But here's a secret: it's never too late to find your people. Margaret's first step was simple. She started saying yes more often. A neighbor invited her to a book club. She hesitated at first. What if I don't know anyone? What if they all have their close friends? But she went, and within minutes, she found herself engaged in a spirited discussion about a novel she hadn't even finished. Here's the thing about social connections: they don't have to be complicated. A weekly phone call with an old friend, a chat with the cashier at the grocery store, even smiling at a stranger on a walk. Every interaction adds up, weaving a thread of connection that makes life feel fuller. For Margaret, the biggest breakthrough came when she started volunteering. At first she worried she had nothing to offer, but she quickly realized that life experience is a gift. She began mentoring young women at a local community center, sharing wisdom she didn't even know she had. And in return, she found something priceless: purpose. If you're feeling disconnected, start small. Join a club, attend a local event, or even engage online. The goal isn't to force friendships but to create opportunities for connection, because life is brighter when it's shared. 5. Prioritizing self-care and well-being. Margaret always put others first. Her husband, her children, her friends, she cared for them all with an open heart. But now, in this quieter stage of life, she faced a startling realization: she had never really learned how to care for herself. Self-care isn't just about face masks and bubble baths, it's about listening to your body, nurturing your mind, and protecting your emotional well-being. It's about understanding that you are worth the time, the effort, and the kindness you so freely give to others. For Margaret, the shift started with small acts of self-respect. She stopped eating meals, standing at the kitchen counter, and began setting the table, even if it was just for herself. She swapped late-night TV binges for a bedtime routine that helped her sleep better. She learned that movement, whether it was yoga, stretching, or just dancing in her living room, wasn't about exercise, but about feeling alive in her skin. But self-care isn't just physical, it's emotional too. Margaret learned to set boundaries, saying no to obligations that drained her energy, and yes to things that brought her joy. She started journaling, writing letters to her younger self, and unpacking memories she had buried for years. And most importantly, she let go of the guilt that came with putting herself first. One day, Margaret sat on her porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset. For the first time in a long time, she felt at peace, not because life was perfect, but because she had finally permitted herself to prioritize herself. Self-care doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be as simple as taking deep breaths in the morning, listening to your favorite music, or treating yourself to a fresh bouquet. The important thing is that you do it, because you deserve to feel good every single day. Look at you, on the verge of becoming the master of solo living. Who said living alone had to be dull? Not you, my friend. You've got the blueprint. Create a joyful space, build a fulfilling routine, find your people, and put yourself first. Now go on, make life fabulously yours.